Stocks. Never in a million years did I think I'd be making a film about the stock market. Certainly not a documentary. That's me, by the way. I spend most of my time writing, not poetry or anything fancy, but screenplays. I fucking love screenplays. I've got a twin brother, that's us. He's a musician mostly, a damn good one, and loves hanging out with his pug in his darkroom. Like most millennials, we grew up in a golden age of video games and action movies, which helped as we were to experience the war on drugs,
Just say no.
9/11, war on terror, the Great Recession, insurmountable college debt, a housing crisis, a global pandemic, unprecedented credit card debt, and all the while, the media bitches at us about avocado toast and entitlement. I just want to afford a house and groceries. Fuck me, right? So in January 2021, we bought into GameStop.
We like the stock.
You maybe heard a bit on the news about this crazy thing that happened where all these basement-dwelling neckbeards on Reddit decided to take down some hedge funds. Yeah, that's part of it, but only part.
Hey, bro. We just need a little intro. That's all.
That's what I'm doing. I'm in the middle of it.
Okay, just get to the point, though.
I am. Let me fucking finish.
Okay.
What happened in January of 2021 was just the tip of the iceberg. The whole story is much worse, and it affects every single one of you. So the movie's called Apes Together Strong. But what is an ape?
Apes, man, are just regular, everyday people.
To me, an ape is someone...
A person that doesn't go to a broker to seek advice on what they should invest in.
Someone that has diamond hands.
This is a movie. We're doing all right.
But, the apes are a fascinating community.
So an ape essentially is just a retail investor.
People from all walks of life, for sure, from every part of the political spectrum.
They want more transparency in the market, and they're really battling for more of a fair playing field.
We're not doing anything malicious. We're just trying to get a fair marketplace.
This community has formed on its own using technology, both to organize itself and to access markets.
I definitely think this is creating a new breed of investors.
And it really embodies this retail investment ethos.
You're in charge of your financial future.
That is a thing that Wall Street has never seen before.
An ape is somebody that took a bet on themselves. I'm already struggling. What do I have to lose?
Okay, bro. Where do you want to start? Let's start with just some clean drone footage.
Yeah, like floating through a big, expensive city.
Or just some dude barefoot on a log in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, super artsy, and we have some piano music going.
It's definitely a documentary. And some guys just staring at the stock market.
Everyone can conjure up images of the Great Depression. We have this abstract idea that a bunch of people were poor and that the stock market crashed. But we're too far removed to remember that much of this was caused by the ultra-wealthy gambling with other people's money. Giant commercial banks were out of control. The Glass-Steagall Act was a direct response to this. The act would force banks to only use depositors' money in safe investments. And it worked. For nearly 40 years, the U.S. financial system prospered without a single crisis. Regulation was protecting the real economy. That is until this guy came along. B-movie actor Ronald Reagan was elected president in 1980. And along with the help from his Treasury Secretary, former Merrill Lynch CEO Donald Reagan, Reagan proceeded to free Wall Street from the shackles of regulation. A year later, the Garn-St. Germain's Depository Institutions Act of 1982, as the short title, deregulated the mortgage industry, allowing banks to provide adjustable-rate mortgage loans. But of course, it didn't stop there. The Clinton administration, with Larry Summers as his Treasury Secretary, signed the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act into law, gutting the Glass-Steagall Act and taking away the SEC's authority to regulate large investment bank holding companies like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Lehman Brothers, and Bear Stearns. The next guy didn't do any better.
Some of these products were used irresponsibly. Some lenders made loans that borrowers did not understand, especially in the subprime sector.
I was foreclosed on in 2008 after returning back from Iraq. I got a terrible subprime mortgage. I just really wanted a place to feel safe, where I didn't really know that I was a victim of something that millions of other Americans have been a victim of.
Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed.
In 2008, the global economy was thrown into a recession by the unbridled greed of Wall Street's biggest firms. Make no mistake, this crisis was the direct result of decades of deregulation in our capital markets. We've been on a 40-year tear to dismantle oversight, regulation, and accountability in our financial systems, all for the pursuit of abstract wealth made off the backs of people like you and me.
Only if our government grows less will our economy grow more.
This ever-growing hydra of red and blue oligarchs threatens not only our retirements, but our flailing democracy. This became all too painfully clear as the bottom 99% of us suffered through the worst pandemic in a century, while the top 1% added trillions to their wealth. That money didn't come from nowhere. It came from you.
A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. Officials now say more than 400...
You know, during the pandemic, I was really struggling for sure. I just graduated college and was embarking on this journey of the military, which is something that I never saw for myself a couple of years ago.
From 2016 to 2020, I was serving in the Air Force. There is a certain mindset that you get into when you have to carry a gun with you everywhere for your own safety, and at all times you have to be like having your wits about you. Being in an environment where you're constantly at war, it gives you a new perspective on life.
Right now, at the time of filming, I'm like 30 years old. It took me a second to think about that. I don't know. Kind of stopped counting after 21. I wouldn't say I'm too outgoing. Like I said, I'm more of a homebody. Like I work a lot. My family comes from Mexico. My dad, he came here pretty young, worked here a couple years until I guess he was able to get the amnesty and become a resident.
My name's Kat Stryker. I'm a bartender. How would I describe myself? Very outgoing. I was a troublemaker. I went to juvenile hall twice. What saved me was my son. I was 16, I got pregnant, 17 when I had him. It changed my outlook. I needed to change everything and focus on raising a human. When I started investing, I got in it 8 years ago. My adopted dad, he told me that I should invest in my future, and he told me to get into stocks.
So this is the fun part about this grill. This kind of funnels all the heat into one place. Dad passed away when I was 4. My mom, my grandmother, and my 2 brothers and my sisters basically raised me. We didn't have much, but at the same time, we were rich with love, like my grandmother used to say. So we kind of made do with what we had. We are in Baton Rouge at the first house I ever bought, my house. This would be considered North Baton Rouge. It would be, you know, they would say it's a high crime area and all that, but I've never experienced any of that here. My neighbor across the street right there, I still take her vegetables. Cousin, he stays right there. She makes the best gumbo in the world. I've watched all these people pass on and their children take the houses. This is just a newer suburb than the one that I used to live in, because at the end of the day, you are where you are, try to make the best out of it.
Good afternoon, you bunch of beautiful freaking chickens. It is your boy Trey coming back here again. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Trey's Trades. We freaking talk fast and don't skip class, baby. Like I preface by saying that I'm not a financial advisor or expert. So Take it with a grain of salt. Let's get into the video. So today, my friends, my fellow I grew up in small town freaking hillbilly Minnesota. The town was called Bolus. So I was super passionate about running. The thing that I wanted to do with my life was qualify for the Olympic trials in the marathon. Where my dad died, he had a heart attack. And that's scary for me because I have a genetic defect. It's a heart shunt. I've got scar tissue on my heart from ladder infarctions, which is fancy doctor bullshit for heart attack. So that hits home. It definitely hits home.
For a lot of us, the pandemic was terrifying. It was isolating and difficult. But for the first time in a long time, working class people had a chance to pull their heads out of the grind and maybe learn something new.
Like figuring out the fucking stock market.
In April of 2020, every eligible adult in the US received $1,200 in the form of a stimulus check. This came as the trading app Robinhood made the market accessible, simple, and cheap for anyone with a cell phone and cash to burn.
Vlad Tenev, who's the CEO of Robinhood, that you may have used to trade stocks for free without commissions.
In 2019 to 2021, Robinhood's user base grew from 10 million to more than 20 million people.
People have been super distrustful of Wall Street.
With working class folks looking to cash in on what felt like an invincible economy.
It's felt like a rigged system for them.
Retail investors were primed to take the market by storm. The rocket ship was built. All it needed was fuel.
So Reddit itself is this online community where anybody with computer access and internet access can go on there, make an account, and they can talk.
All of a sudden you had a lot of people with nothing better to do other than getting some stimmy checks, you know, looking around at the stock market.
I was not one for social media.
I was on Reddit maybe like occasionally, just for the social aspect.
If you love bread, you can find a community dedicated to just bread. I think it's called Breadit.
The pandemic allowed for a lot of people to connect with people like they haven't done before.
I am pretty sure I found Wall Street Bets in 2018 or 2019. On one hand, it's kind of, oh yeah, we love stocks and we love making money, but on the other hand, it's also like, yeah! I've found my people.
The gift and the curse of the pandemic is that it allowed people to figure out what to do. It took away the family outing. It took away, the eating out every day.
You had people that had a couple of extra bucks, and you also had a lot of people looking at this all at the same time. And it was on Reddit, which was free.
There was an online community with this drum beat that was so loud. And one of my friends fatefully told me about GameStop.
The first thing that resonated to me about GameStop was just the David versus Goliath retail investors versus hedge fund story.
Like, I get this. People are breaking this down in ways that I can understand, and a lot of people were doing that at the same time.
So I bought my table stakes. I got in.
Hang on, stop. What? We can't get into Keith Gill and GameStop until I've covered some basic shit first. Like short selling and what are markets for, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, like everything that this story involves. Okay, that's fair enough. Basic shit. By basic shit, we the filmmakers mean all the rudimentary information about the stock market that we think you should probably know before moving on to the story. After all, these subjects are intentionally complicated to keep the average person from understanding enough to know that the market is built to profit from and extract wealth from your current and future prosperity. This is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors.
My name's Lisa Berganza, and I'm a former SEC branch chief. I handled lots of investigations and then supervised people handling investigations of potential violations of securities laws.
I'm Dave Lauer. I used to be a quantitative analyst at Citadel Investment Group. Through a long and sort of convoluted series of events, I ended up testifying before the U.S. Senate Banking Committee on high-frequency trading, and I saw that there was a serious problem in terms of the access that the retail investor has to data and tools. and decided, that was something I could fix.
I'm Dennis Kelleher. I'm the co-founder, president, and CEO of a nonprofit organization called Better Markets. Thank you for the invitation to Better Markets to testify today. It is unacceptable that brokers and others today are allowed to put their economic interest above their clients' best interest. We have about 15 staff who promote the public interest in the financial markets throughout the policy-making process in Washington, D.C.
We have a stock market so that individuals who want to make something, want to offer services, want to create a business can raise capital to fund their growth. That is the fundamental purpose of having a stock market.
Capitalism only functions when you have markets that can adequately provide capital and price discovery.
Let's break this down with an example. Company A wants to grow their business. They need money to do so. So they go to the stock market and sell 100 shares to the general public. These shares are called the float. Individual investors who want to grow their money bring it to the stock market, where they invest in companies like Company A. They fight over how much that company is worth until the price is discovered. This is called price discovery. At its most basic level, the price of these shares is determined by both the supply, or how many there are, and demand, or how badly people want them. Realistically, there won't always be someone willing to buy or sell a share from you when you want to buy or sell your shares, which is why we have market makers.
A market maker's function is to provide liquidity, and liquidity is like oil in the gears of a machine. Keeps it moving. Oftentimes you have more buy orders than you have sell orders, or more sell orders than you have buy orders. It's rare that you're going to have it be perfectly equal. So the market maker is somebody who kind of stands in the middle, prepared to be the other side of a trade when there isn't somebody in the marketplace at that moment.
Let's say you want to buy a share at GameStop. You can't just walk into the stock market and buy that share. You have to go through a licensed broker like Robinhood. Retail investors have never had it this easy. You can be pretty much anywhere. Open up your phone, put in your order, and hit buy.
When you hear the mission of Robinhood to democratize finance for all, it's really about giving access to everyone what was once reserved for the 1% or the very wealthy.
I wanted to play more of a principal role in my financial future and the financial future of my family. But what I think we all have in common is that it's enough. People are tired. People are frustrated. People are angry. People are mad at just surviving. And no matter what class you're in, if you're lower class, if you're lower middle class, if you're upper middle class, if you're not in that 1% bracket, that high tax bracket, you're a second away. You slip and fall at work with no medical leave. Blood pressure medication needs to be taken every day. Lights need to be on. Running water needs to be on. Gas needs to be there for a few. People have come together and united over so many things because we're regular people that deal with traumatic shit every day. On one side of the trade, you got the retail investor that decided to take a bet on themselves. And then on the other side, you got the rich covering themselves by laws that said it's legal.
The one thing you have to know is that with every trade, there's a financial intermediary making a killing, and that's coming out of the pockets of the retail traders.
Now, most of us think that when we buy a stock through our broker, we're buying it on the stock exchange. But the truth is, almost none of our retail trades ever see the light of day, because our capital markets have become far more fragmented and complicated than they need to be. We have many places where stocks can be bought or sold. These are called venues.
So venues is a very generic term to refer to any kind of trading venue. So any place where a buy order can find a sell order and result in a trade.
These include lit markets like the New York Stock Exchange, where you can see everything that's going on, or dark pools, where large institutional orders are executed in secret so as not to affect the stock price.
Retail executes off exchange because retail orders are bought by Citadel and Virtu, and they execute in their internalization systems. That's the area that other countries have outlawed, because they understand that large trades happening off exchange are fine and often a good outcome. Small trades happening off exchange are not.
So why aren't our retail trades executed on lit exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange, and instead deep in the halls of giant firms like Citadel?
Payment for order flow is a practice that was popularized by Bernie Madoff.
Bernard Madoff has just been sentenced for the biggest investment fraud in Wall Street history.
What he found was that...
Whoa, pause it, please. Yeah. Bernie Madoff, like, worst financial criminal in history? Yeah, that's the guy. That Bernie Madoff is the one that invented payment for order flow. Oh my god, dude, that's so bad. And we're still using that. Yeah, I mean, it's a solid scam. That makes sense. You ready? Yeah, I guess. Moving on? Roll it.
So payment for order flow is a practice that was popularized by Bernie Madoff. And what he found was that as a market maker, he could take order flow from a broker and make money off of it.
With payment for order flow, firms like Citadel, who claim to be a market maker, pay Robinhood for the orders that Robinhood customers like you and me submit. They fill that order from their own inventory and skim a few cents off the deal, then deliver your shares.
A broker, a retail broker, has a duty of best execution, and that duty of best execution is to get their client the best price possible. Some brokers take that seriously, and most don't.
These brokers are supposed to hop from venue to venue looking for best execution on your orders. But more often than not, they're just kicking those orders to the highest bidder. And Robinhood was even fined for prioritizing Citadel because they were getting paid over finding you the best deal. And before Citadel ever got into the game of market making, they even torched payment for order flow in a 2004 letter to the SEC saying that it distorts order routing decisions, is anti-competitive, and creates an obvious and substantial conflict of interest.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of retail trading gets executed in dark markets. Well, of course, the Robinhoods and Citadels of the world say, because that's where you get the best execution and you get the best price whether you're buying or selling. Now, we at Better Markets have a hard time believing that when we see the billions and billions of dollars being pocketed by the Robinhoods and Citadels of the world, because you have to ask yourself, where's that coming from? Only coming from one place: retail investors and the buy side.
To be clear, Citadel is Robinhood's biggest customer. You are the product.
You're sold this fake dream that when you're either lower middle class or you're poor, that if you work hard and you invest into the market, that's basically your golden ticket to, to become successful. And to be honest, I think it's basically a lot of bullshit. It's a lie. They just need us, people like me, retail investors, the lower middle class, the poor people, to steady put our money in, thinking that one day we'll finally get that golden ticket, that lottery ticket, to be successful. When, we don't. They just take our money because they know the tricks and trades and stuff like that. And it gives you a headache. So
my name is Austin Tobit, and I got my bachelor's in accounting, got my master's in accounting, and then went into more of the data sciences and the data analytics side of things. But I've always dabbled in financial shit. The stock market is the dream for a lot of people that come from this old school or traditional mindset of, if you work hard, you put your money in the right place, you'll be able to invest in something, hopefully, strike it big. You could be the next big investor in Apple in the 80s. Like if you, it's like Forrest Gump, man. You hit that home run and we don't have to worry about money anymore.
A big part of what we have lost in modern markets, where speculation has become 90% of trading, is that markets are not a casino.
How secure is that investment? If I look at that old school mindset and I say, just leave my money in there, look at 2008. You have people working for 30 years trying to put money into a savings account or an investment account. And by the time they're getting ready to retire, like 1 or 2 years from retiring, 2008 hits.
Wall Street in itself is sort of the poster child for wealth and income inequality. you've got this enormous industry of people making money off of money and mostly making rich people richer. Especially the great financial crisis impacted the average person far more than it impacted the average trader or the average investment banker. They still got their bonuses. Their firms were bailed out. They've continued business as usual, risk-taking as usual, and amassing wealth as usual. And to me, that's just a recipe for disaster.
There are two major types of investors. There are regular people and what are known as sort of institutional investors, which are considered to be more sophisticated investors that do a lot more trading, things like mutual funds, pension funds, hedge funds.
Imagine a room full of rich people, and they all want to be a lot richer. They each put a large amount in the hands of a hedge fund. Hedge funds then invest that money into risky positions, often using excessive leverage to exaggerate their gains. These risky investments are managed by rockstar investors, such as this guy, Gabe Plotkin of Melvin Capital.
Now, unfortunately, over time, our markets, like too much of our economy, have become what's called financialized, which is to say they are obsessively focused on short-term financial returns. You can see that in a variety of ways. One example is short selling.
Well, GameStop looks to be heading down the same path as Blockbuster and Sam Goody. The retail giant will close more than 180 stores across the globe as they continue to struggle with sales. The company said the closures at underperforming locations will take place over a 6-month period.
The world's largest movie theater chain was already struggling before the coronavirus outbreak.
We've been the victim of some short selling during the year. There might have been some game playing with our stock today.
A short sale is what you do when you want to bet that the price of a stock goes down.
So short selling is selling something that you don't own right now.
You buy a stock if you think that the stock is going to go up, and you short a stock if you think that the stock is going to go down.
How do you do that? How do you sell something you don't own? There are lots of people out there who have stock and they're just sitting on it. Could be me, could be a pension fund. And a short seller is able to go and borrow that share and now sell it to someone else, expecting the price will go down, and the short seller gets to pocket the difference. The price of a stock can go down only a certain amount before it hits zero. The price of a stock can go up an infinite amount, causing the short seller potentially infinite losses.
I know we just explained short selling a couple of different times, but I really think we need a visual.
Didn't Tobit have a good example?
He did. Why don't we just dress you up like a short seller and go shoot it?
Okay.
This example goes like this. I'm gonna travel to my neighbor's house and I'm gonna say, hey, I wanna borrow that 5-pound bag of sugar from you, okay? Say the price of this sugar is $10 today. So my neighbor says, sure, I've got a bag of sugar, I'll give it to you. I say, thank you, I will pay you back. So as soon as I borrow that bag of sugar, I'm gonna say thank you to my neighbor, and I'm gonna turn around and go to the market, and I'm gonna sell that bag of sugar for $10. And as the price of sugar goes down, because I believe the price of sugar was gonna go down, so as it goes down, and it gets to the 7, the 5, 4, whenever it hits a price where I believe that's probably the rock bottom, I believe that's the bottom out price of sugar, and let's say it's $5. I'm gonna go back into the market. Remember, I sold it initially for 10. So I'm gonna go back into the market. I'm gonna buy that same bag, that 5-pound bag of sugar for $5, and I'm gonna bring it back to the neighbor that I borrowed it from. So the neighbor gets their 5-pound bag of sugar back. I pocket $5 because it only cost me $5 to buy it back, and everything is the same. Nobody knows any different. Now, the opposite is also true there, because what if I'm wrong? What if the price of sugar goes from $10 to $20, and my neighbor says, hey, sugar's getting pretty expensive and I want my bag back? Well, too bad. You gotta go into the market, be accountable for your bad bet, and buy sugar at a more expensive price. And that's why when they say short selling has an unlimited loss, they mean it's an unlimited loss.
I can talk about the various type of short sellers and what I used to do professionally.
And short sellers are often on the lookout for companies that are engaged in fraud, where they're actually making false statements about their financials, their prospects, their competitors, their products. One of the best examples of that many people know is Enron.
It may be perceived by some that I have something to hide.
My most recent short in that area is a company called MiMedx. I exposed the CEO for ripping off the VA, for making up numbers, cooking the books.
So you're saying if you put out a false press release, you can be fined and go to jail. Is that what you're going to say?
That's what the laws and regulations are.
You know, good rat bastard motherfuckers.
That's a good public service. Now, they weren't doing it just to be good public servants. They had massive short positions in the stock.
There is no better feeling than getting something right, and in my mind, for the right reason.
All short sellers claim they do nothing but great public services by making sure all stocks are efficient and hunting for fraud at all times. That's not true. Okay, a whole bunches of them are engaged in predatory, antisocial, if not illegal conduct.
When a small percentage of the float of a company is short, it can be healthy. You want disagreement in markets. That is the essence of markets, is people disagree and they are putting their money where their mouth is. One person thinks a company is worth more than another person. And the market is this attempt by the crowd to come up with what something is worth.
All right, basics covered. We know that markets are supposed to be a place where people go to raise money for their businesses, where others argue over what that business is worth. You have to go through a broker like Robinhood to buy stocks. You can bet on the success of a company by going long. You can bet on the decline of a company by going short. And a hedge fund is a group of rich assholes wanting to gamble with other people's money.
There were a group of investors on Reddit who were driven by a couple of different motivations.
When you said GameStop was going to be a big winner, everyone thought you were tripping. Up 13%. You still like it?
I still like it. Yeah, same store sales over the holidays were up 10%.
What store? It seems like they closed them all.
No, there's some stores.
A lot of people thought it was sort of an obvious company where, you know, maybe it doesn't necessarily have that great of a future given sort of the downfall of retail and all of that.
Keith Gill was kind of the first guy on Reddit to blow this all up. He's the one who presented the bull case, made his thesis out on Wall Street bets. For a long time, he ate some shit.
Game begin.
This is going to be the first video of the Kitty Corner, and the market has kind of forced my hand on this one. The first stock that I'm going to talk about is GameStop.
Keith Gill, known on YouTube and Twitter as Roaring Kitty, and on Reddit as Deep Fucking Value, saw GameStop, or GME, as a wildly undervalued company.
Yeah, I think everyone else is crazy, and I think I'm right, but I've been wrong plenty of times in the past.
There was nothing overcomplicated about his strategy. Based on publicly available information, he came to the conclusion that GameStop was worth more than the price it was trading at.
So this is some of the heaviest negative sentiment I've seen with the stock. I haven't shopped there in years, or my friends haven't shopped there in years. You download everything, digital's the future, GameStop's the next blockbuster. That's a popular one.
It just reminds me of Blockbuster.
In a sea of crassness and debauchery on Wall Street bets, Keith Gill was a good-natured breath of fresh air.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody, and a deep fucking cheers to all y'all.
He not only knew his shit, but was supremely confident in his play. So confident that on Sunday, September 8th, 2019 at 1:12 p.m., he posted his first YOLO post, revealing a $53,000 bet that GameStop's stock price would shoot to the moon.
Shorting, where you're betting that the price of a stock is going to go down, is sort of viewed poorly by people. And the reason is that it can be viewed as sort of a predatory tactic because there are investors who will short a stock and then they'll sort of purposely try and tank the stock.
In 2016, Melvin Capital revealed its first short position in GameStop, beginning a years-long campaign to profit from the company's demise.
Unfortunately, nowadays, there appears to be more bad guys than good guys, and they're just trying to grab as much money as fast as possible. Consequences be damned is the attitude.
As you start to learn more about it and the bigger picture that's going on with short selling, you start to realize that it's really become more profitable for these companies or these hedge funds like Melvin Capital to bankrupt a company than it is to bet in terms of like the longevity of the company.
See, I don't think that really goes on. I don't think Melvin was trying to push GameStop out of business. From what I understand, the fellow actually does his research, and he was short GameStop for a long time. And I think he had a successful trade because he views it as a dying business, and he was shorted and he was successful. But at that point, I think arrogance got the best of him, along with some form of greed, and he should have just covered and gone home. He didn't need to destroy the company at the end of the day because GameStop harmed nobody.
Short sellers ramped up their bearish bets by targeting not only GameStop, but other struggling companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, Bed Bath & Beyond, and AMC Theaters.
These are tough times for everybody. Our minds are very much on our customers, 1 million a day who can't go to the movie theaters right now, and our 27,000 American employees who have nothing to do because we are shuttered and closed.
AMC back in January, maybe even a year before that, there was a good thesis for the company going bankrupt. And if you want to bet on a company going bankrupt, as long as your intent is not to bankrupt the company, do as you please. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't like to bet against the economy. That's not my thing. But if you're trying to make money purely from a money standpoint, whatever, I get it. But the problem is that they intended for the company to go bankrupt. They wanted the company to go bankrupt.
See, short selling has an added bonus. If a trader has a short position in a company, and that company goes bankrupt, the short seller doesn't have to buy back and return the shares that they borrowed.
To me, I felt that the entire reason for investing in the markets was because we wanted to invest in companies. We wanted to invest in growth. Let's change things for the better. Let's innovate. Let's create. Let's do something different that nobody else has done. For the market to be basically hounded by these short sellers who are fighting against this innovation, who are putting up barriers for us, and including stuff like cancer research, that to me just screams that these guys are very out of touch. Very out of touch.
My name is Keith Clossy. I'm 35 years old from Ireland, and I got invested in GME because of some Reddit posts I'd read. I have 3 small children, and the whole reason I want to be involved is because I want to make a better life for them, make things a lot more comfortable and easy. We've had a little bit of a hard going over the last couple of years, but hopefully once GME moons, we will be able to build our own house, and basically get all the things that we haven't been able to afford up until this point.
Melvin Capital continued to short GameStop, breaking in massive gains on put options disclosed quarter after quarter.
For a long time, though, with the advent of the internet and with changing technologies, GameStop during the early 2010s had a really difficult time adjusting and adapting to the changing market conditions that technology had brought in. This was when the short sellers had kind of clomped into everything and slowly just started shorting them into oblivion.
But not everyone shared his bearish view on the company. Dr. Michael Burry, played by Christian Bale in Adam McKay's film The Big Short, took a $6.8 million stake in the company in late 2018. By August of that year, he wrote a strongly worded letter to GameStop's board, criticizing their lackluster performance and taking advantage of GameStop's elite position in the gaming universe. Keith Gill continued to post updates on his YOLO, revealing incremental gains that brought disbelief and criticism among his fellow Wall Street Bets degenerates. Then, in August of 2020, as Gill's net worth popped over $600,000, a savvy young entrepreneur and billionaire, Ryan Cohen, revealed his own long position in GameStop. He bought 5.8 million shares of GME, totaling at $33.9 million. But this was no ordinary buy-in. Ryan Cohen, a tech-savvy, fresh-faced millennial, had just beaten Amazon with his wildly successful online pet company, Chewy.
Chewy, say hi to your friends! Hi, Saba!
He was exactly what GameStop needed, and he knew it.
I'm 33, and I've learned retirement sucks, and so, maybe I'll start another business. Who knows?
Like Dr. Burry before him, Cohen warned the GameStop board to get its shit together or go the way of the dinosaurs.
Oh, this is big news. Legit. So I just got the news. I was out and about. I was out on a walk with my daughter. This is legit the first time I've sat at the computer since I got this news. So let's actually look at the 13D. It could get people's attention. It's like he's building the stake in his individual capacity. What's this? How did he? What's this? 18. Okay, so actually it's a good chunk of volume. August 18, almost 800K.
The governor of growth has always been free cash flow, and so we've always been very disciplined about that. The strategy from the beginning is really replicating the experience I had in the neighborhood pet store, but doing it online and doing it at scale. And so, doing those small things like the handwritten holiday cards and the flowers.
That's it. I think it's just funny that I didn't know that much about him, and now I'm like, oh, this is a perfect fit for GameStop, right?
While Keith Gill was slowly becoming a millionaire, a revolution was brewing. Hordes of isolated retail investors were ditching traditional financial media and returning to each other on platforms like Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube.
And go. My name is Matt Kors, and I'm a YouTube stock commentator.
I could see the midday session being more of just like a sideways consolidation. I think a lot of people are waiting to hear comments from Adam Aaron and to figure out what is going on with the at-the-market offering.
I am not professionally or even collegiately taught in the market. This is for me reading books, watching videos. The people I'm trying to help are people who are trying to make their life better through the market, and they're trying to look for that information, and some of the times it's not the easiest thing to track down.
I think what you really watched happen over the last year, especially with COVID and quarantine, is education. I think high school and college really failed a lot of people. I was never taught about finance. I was never taught how to do my taxes. I was never taught how to invest. I was told, give your money to this guy and fuck whatever you think.
They just tell you invest your money and, be smart, but how? I personally learned this on my own. I learned it by being educated through social media, not through the news, not through my teachers, not through big money, not through the 1%ers. They didn't teach me. I'm sure they wouldn't have cared if I learned or not.
All right, so this is the jerry rig. I use a very simple setup. So I've just got like a dual monitor sort of computer screen thing right here. I use my Elgato mic, which actually isn't plugged in right now, but we're gonna pretend it is, as well as just a standard iBuyPower gaming computer. I use this just for streaming. It's nice, and people get to watch all the shenanigans and and have fun. Like we like to do. If I'm not streaming, it's the same sort of thing. I pull up whatever I want to show on my screen. I press start recording here on OBS, and I can keep track of all of the sort of things that I want to watch here on the setup. But I keep it really simple because I'm just a regular Joe. I really don't know a whole lot about tech. I think the important thing is the message. It's what's getting passed along to people so that we can have a community, have a home, do a little bit of learning, and also have some fun. Because fuck, I mean, we're just regular people, dude. You like to have fun while you're doing the educating and being a part of the ape community. So when I started YouTube, I wrote down things that I wanted to get across and things that were important to me. And there's a few main things: community, empowerment, education, entertainment. It's not for me. These things that I put on the internet are for other people. Hey, you don't have to be lonely. You can have enough money to be free.
The two things that I think don't get enough credit for this retail and Reddit revolution are memes and the due diligence.
On the Reddit community, I'm better known as ButtFarm69. I am a meme lord. A meme is basically anything that becomes a mimicked thing throughout the viral consciousness, especially over the internet.
This is the worst day of my life.
The worst day of your life so far.
So a meme can be a static image that has a caption on it, and then the caption will change, but the picture will stay the same. It's basically just anything that can be mimicked and transfers across society. That is a meme. So memes have been, for a lot of people, the thing that got them asking about GameStop in the first place. Seeing a meme that went viral on Reddit or on Twitter or whatever, It was the first gateway into them learning about GameStop, the stock. And it made me laugh. Cool, now I know the information and I had a good time learning it.
The memes are so critical to this movement of information because they're what interrupts this wall of text, this wall of information that otherwise is indigestible.
It's basically the very opposite of what we did in school, where we would just stare at a chalkboard for a while. On a meme, it's like, yo, look at this.
Hi, my name's Sahil, I'm 22 years old and I'm a final year university student from the UK. I got involved in the AMC and GameStop saga when my uncle PayPal'd me £20 and he explained to me what's essentially going on. And then I started doing my own sort of research into it, I suppose. I started looking at, other due diligence which is put out by other apes into the community. You really start to just gain this confidence, and I just invested more and more heavily into it, to the point where I sold my Tesla shares and all that sort of stuff, and I've more or less YOLO'd my entire portfolio into AMC and GameStop. That's literally the only two shares I own anymore. And then it's got to the point where even my grandma asks me every single day how is your AMC and GameStop doing, and she even says to when it goes lower to buy the dips.
So the MOAS is the mother of all short squeezes.
You clearly had a number of traders who were anti-short sellers. They thought that the price of GameStop was being unfairly driven down, and they wanted to do what's called a short squeeze.
So a short squeeze is essentially when you've got shorts that have established positions within the stock. And if you're a long investor and you're looking for a short squeeze, you're looking for these guys to buy back the stock for more money than they sold it at.
Those individuals can hold on to their shares and not sell them.
Which bids up the stock, which then requires the short seller to go in and buy the stock at a higher price.
That can create a feedback loop of shorts covering positions, which drives the price up because they're buying from the market, which shoots the price up exponentially. People who are long on the stock make a crap ton of money.
As news of Ryan Cohen's buy-in drove the stock price up, others on Reddit noticed something unprecedented. GameStop's short interest.
Guys, there's 140% short interest on GameStop.
Short interest is the number of shares sold short, but not yet covered or bought back.
GameStop stock was shorted something like 140% of the actual number of shares.
In September of 2020, Jeff Amazon on Reddit, drops a post titled "The Real Greatest Short Burn of the Century." In what now seems like a prophecy of what was to come, he explains that a short squeeze is imminent, and as long as retail held onto their shares, short sellers would have to come to them to buy them back. But here's the kicker. More shares of GameStop were shorted than existed in the float. I'll say that again. More shares were shorted than existed. So how the fuck is that possible? One explanation is naked short selling.
A naked short sale is basically when you sell a stock that you haven't borrowed.
Naked shorting is illegal for most firms, but there is an exemption for market makers. And those market makers are allowed to sell without holding those shares to provide liquidity.
Market makers can be short the stock without having to borrow the shares. And some people would call that naked shorting.
So when you sign up for a retail broker and you click agree to the customer agreement, you agreed to lend your shares out. So investor A holds 100 shares, and short seller A comes along and wants to borrow those shares and sell them. So that the short seller sold the 100 shares. Now they're being held by investor B. Investor B wants to lend those shares out. And so another short seller comes along and borrows the shares from investor B and sells them to investor C. And now you have 3 different investors who all think they're holding 100 shares, but they're all holding the same shares. And it's legal.
I learned in business school that one of the most important things that business people do is try to figure out ways to get around the current system. It's like a video game, right?
This is when you start to get into the realm of what's ethical, what's unethical, what's legal, what's illegal. They can kick the can down the road all they want, but shorts have to cover. You can't get out of 140% short float. Where's GameStop? Up tenfold from the beginning of the year. Shorts have to cover.
So I am seeing short squeezes all over the place. In many cases, they are actually being orchestrated by motivated young stock buyers.
My son came up to me and he said he wanted to borrow money. I asked him a bunch of questions and he said he was on Reddit. He wanted to follow the meme stocks.
The retail investors have pretty much always been portrayed as pajama-wearing, no-tie owning, like bunch of degenerates who don't know how the markets work and have no business in the markets. And I will say to those guys, you guys have no business in the markets because what you have done is bastardize the American economy and the American markets to do your bidding. Fuck you.
Right now, an astounding 144% of GameStop shares have been sold short. That's far more than there is. That's not right.
My initial reaction was, what are you people doing? This is crazy. You're gonna lose everything. You're going up against the big guys.
And then, since then, the buyers have hit the stock message boards and urged a gang tackle of the shorts. GameStop has now doubled in 2 days.
Right now, we are winning a battle with hedge funds, market makers, movers and shakers of Wall Street. 32 minutes past the hour.
To say I love what is going on with hashtag Wall Street Bets. All of those years of high-frequency traders, front-running retail traders, now speed and density of information, and retail trading is giving the little guy an edge.
GameStop at 420. It hit 420, ladies and gentlemen.
When I've been most locked and shackled is when I didn't have money to do the things that I wanted to do in life.
Oh, 420.69. Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot.
I'd really love to buy a house, obviously help my family.
Well, what if it's squeezed and this is life-changing money and you can put your family in places you always wanted to go?
I saw my account go past $100,000.
Manos de diamante, cabrones. Diamond hands.
The adrenaline that is pumping through your veins, I can only compare it to like it's the final seconds of your basketball game. You've got the ball, you're dribbling from the other end of the court towards your basket, the buzzer's about to go, and you just whoo.
You didn't really think they were going to give it to us, did you? Yeah, I fucking did. Well, it's about to get a lot worse.
David, we do have now some statements from Robinhood and Interactive Brokers about restricting trading.
GameStop shares tanking today. Robinhood and other brokers making it tougher to trade the stock.
We haven't seen how this movie ends, and a lot of these amateur traders, especially today, could get hurt.
Our mission at Robinhood is to democratize finance for all.
People upset at the idea that they can no longer buy, and it will have an impact.
I remember January 2021. I remember all the hope that we felt. And you can call us misguided, you can call us juvenile, but the fact is, we were right. We saw a chink in the armor, and for once, we caught the oligarchs on the back foot. We were so close. And we know that money can't buy everything, but it can buy you freedom. Medical bills, parking tickets, late fees, overdraft charges, rent hikes, student loans, stagnant wages, cost of living, inflation are all realities that keep us chained to the gig work and the hard labor that keeps the real economy right where we should be. Stuck in the cogs of a bastardized financial system, deranged into a perfect cold machine, rigged to extract wealth from the hard-working people of the world. And as GameStop popped to more than $500, with with no sign of slowing down. That excitement was a rare feeling after a year of pandemic and isolation. All we had to do was buy and hold. Who knew that our markets were so fragile that buying and holding a stock could take down the whole damn thing? The keys to the castle were in our hands, and when the excitement reached a boiling point, our brokers betrayed us. Robinhood, the broker that we had trusted to democratize finance, took away the buy button. Then E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, Webull, and other payment for order flow brokers followed suit. We didn't know why buying was halted on AMC and GameStop, but the message was clear. Wall Street wanted us to sell, and what should have been the mother of all short squeezes became little more than a sneeze. It seemed to everybody that the apes had lost, and once again, it was abundantly clear that the house always wins.
This is the fun part. This is where the training comes in. All right, sit, stay. Go get it. Bring it.
There's no doubt that it's the retail investors who spotted this crazy set of circumstances in which something could squeeze like this, and they got it right. They went all in, and then it was the retail investors that were hurt, which is, again, sort of the standard on Wall Street, that gains are privatized and losses are socialized.
This hearing is entitled Game Stopped: Who Wins and Loses When Short Sellers, Social Media, and Retail Investors Collide.
This is what I think needs to be answered about your decision. Why did Robinhood restrict the buying but not the selling of GameStop?
The decision to restrict GameStop and other securities was driven purely by deposit and collateral requirements imposed by our clearinghouses.
So let's break down Vlad's excuse for turning off the buy button. Every time a trade happens, it goes through the DTCC, or Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. They keep track of who owns and who owes what.
They're sort of like the officiant of the marriage. They make sure that the person who's selling the stock has the stock, and the person who's buying the stock has money.
The DTCC called Robinhood to ask for $3 billion extra to back up the buying activity in GameStop and AMC.
They told Robinhood, hey, we need $3 billion in essentially collateral from you in case these trades don't go through so that you can cover it.
So Vlad, in true bad guy form, decides to protect his company over his customers by proposing giving the DTCC less money if he shuts down the buy button. They agreed.
It's important to remember, though, that any one story about what happened in January is only ever going to be part of the picture.
I believe that retail investors are being used by the broker-dealers, and they are the product.
And that, of course, is what's going on with payment for order flow and high-frequency trading firms that claim to be market makers when, in fact, what they're really doing is engaging in market activities to maximize their profits, period, full stop. The people at Robinhood have got fabulously rich over this. The two principal founders of Robinhood are reportedly billionaires today. Their wealth depends upon being able to sell as many trades as possible to the citadels of the world that then get executed in dark markets, which maximizes the amount of payment for order flow they can give to the Robinhoods of the world. The Robinhood customers not only enriched pre-existing billionaires, they have actually created more billionaires.
We all love a good David and Goliath story. And yeah, it was awesome to watch the little guys smash some hedge funds. But the reality is a lot more complicated. As retail investors loaded up on GameStop and AMC, Robinhood was making a killing through payment for order flow. And Citadel was making even more by taking retail orders. Melvin Capital, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. Over the course of the run-up in January, Melvin reported losses to the tune of $7.5 billion. And this is where things get a little bit weird. See, market making isn't the only business Ken Griffin and Citadel have their hands in. Citadel is also a hedge fund. And as Melvin Capital was on the brink of collapse, Ken Griffin used that hedge fund to bail them out.
Again, I have not, nor do I have the ability to subpoena emails or trading records or phone calls or who knew what, when, and how. But the only reason Citadel and Ken Griffin would give Melvin a dime, given his state, would be that, in their view, Melvin represented such risk that further destruction of Melvin in the GameStop/meme stocks would put a very, very, very over-leveraged Citadel at risk. That would be the only reason to get the bleeding at Melvin to stop. Because by all practical purposes, Melvin is a weak, irresponsible market player, and Melvin should have gone out of business.
When Robinhood turned off the buy button, that benefited a few significant players on Wall Street, particularly Melvin Capital, but some of the other short sellers.
It's important to point out here that it wasn't just Robinhood who restricted buying, but all the brokers who did had one thing in common: payment for order flow.
These events have illuminated potential conflicts of interest and the predatory ways that certain funds operate, and they have demonstrated the enormous potential power of social media in our markets.
The long knives have come out, shutting down the investing revolution the elites could not control. The biggest disappointment comes from Robinhood.
Here to testify today, including witnesses representing Wall Street firms Melvin Capital and Citadel.
You said that you didn't talk to anybody, Citadel Securities. Did anyone in your organization since January 1st contact Robinhood?
Absolutely not.
There is evidence that's come out that there was communication between Citadel and Robinhood.
It was highlighted by this internal chat message on January 27th, where Robinhood President Jim Swerdlow said, "You wouldn't believe the convo had with Citadel. Total mess."
Maybe they chose the trading restrictions because that's good for Citadel.
Crime does pay. If you're a broker-dealer, crime pays. That's just the truth. You pay fines, but it is the cost of doing business.
I'm gonna do something I never do. Let's come out of my shell and talk about how I'm sick of injustice. I'm sick of people bullying. People who are trying to be smart with money. And make something out of themselves, who don't buy themselves anything, who try to put money aside to make a better future for their kids.
When I think of these big hedge funds and firms that are betting against the economy, the U.S. economy, the American investor, the ape is bullshit.
If you have privilege and you are not actively and consciously using that privilege to bring good into this world, you are part of the problem.
I'm so frustrated. I sit here every day and watch these people bullshit everybody.
I have a message for all these sort of guys.
You don't represent retail, and that nobody believes you anymore.
You should not bet against America. You should not bet against the economy. You should not bet against the little guy, because you're going to get kicked in the ass.
And just because we've got you by the balls and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to stop it doesn't mean that we're going to stop.
And I'm sick of it. Let's have equality.
We're not going anywhere. We're not fucking leaving.
We may not know everything, but every day we're learning more.
That's what an ape feels. Show me some goddamn respect for even taking an attempt to get in the market. Show me some goddamn respect for actually doing something that somebody told me I couldn't do. Show me some goddamn respect for betting on me. I thought that was the American dream.
Underpaid, understaffed, overworked. How many of us does that describe?
The sweat that I put out, I have a right to earn.
So the same shit that happens in 2008 will continue to happen and is happening right now.
We let the news stop being the news. Think about this. When was the last time you trusted the news to give you factual, unbiased, objective information?
This is a pure underdog story. The 99 versus the 1, David versus Goliath. You're having the average person who's locked in solitude during the pandemic fighting against the illegitimate acts on Wall Street.
I don't give a damn how long you've been trading, how long you've been doing something. If you come in disrespectful, I'm going to give you in like kind of what you just gave me. Because you thinking I'm not sophisticated enough to learn 1 + 1 is 2? Fuck you.
Fuck your vanity space projects. Maybe it's time the people got the keys to the rocket.
What I would like to point out here, that we have come dangerously close to the collapse of the entire system, and the public seems to be completely unaware of that, including Congress and the regulators.
I think that common bond that was born out of January 28th was the recognition that that opportunity, which had been looming larger on the horizon, right? We have this, we have the theory, we have our investment, the timing is right, everything is right, we're doing this. And then the carpet was pulled.
As the stocks plummeted, the apes refused to sell. Instead, they held on and dug into SEC filings, financial disclosures, congressional hearings, you name it. They were intent on finding out who was behind Robinhood's decision to shut off the buy button.
Someone would put out an idea, and that idea would be subject to critique, to acclaim, to be built upon. And what happened out of that was the birth of almost a hive mind.
And the second I looked into Citadel, it was like, there's something very different from the normal, like, investor mentality.
By the end of 2008, we had lost half our capital.
Citadel has acted irresponsibly since the GFC of 2008. Whatever the financial accident is, Ken Griffin and Citadel need to get a backdoor bailout by the government.
And each thing we did bought us one more day. And day by day, we bought ourselves a future.
One of the difficulties in our system, something that we permit, we allow legally, but that is hugely problematic, is that a single entity can have conflicting roles. One example is Citadel can be trading for itself and at the same time be a market maker.
I think they're better known as high-speed speculators, and that's all they do. They don't provide liquidity. They're not here serving as traditional market makers.
That's where the real harm can come, from learning what's going on in retail and then using it for your own benefit.
They're here taking bets, actively taking liquidity, and trying to find inefficiencies at extremely high speeds.
This is a situation that would permit a Citadel, for example, to be able to really take advantage of the markets and be able to drive the price down by using its privileged position as a market maker to do naked shorts. That is a possibility.
With this payment of order flow, you create this black box situation where no one really knows what's going on. And if you're paying $300 million for that kind of flow, you must be making your $300 million back and then some from it.
So there's no other industry where you can sell something, take someone's money and give them nothing. I turned my attention, towards the fails to deliver as the core issue because it is built into the regulations to allow it to happen.
So failure to deliver is when you take a share and you sell it short into the market. You're supposed to come back at a later date because somebody wants their bag of sugar back. But if you are unable to find a bag of sugar to buy, to give back to that person, or the price is too high and you don't want to pay that price, you fail to deliver.
This is something that a lot of investors have looked at because there were a crazy high number of fails to deliver on the GameStop stock.
If I buy a bag of sugar from you and I give you my money for that bag of sugar, I expect you to give me the bag of sugar. I don't expect you to say, I'll get it to you when I can.
I don't think there's a benign explanation to high levels of short interest that results in large numbers of failure to deliver. To see 4 or 5 times the float trade in a day, and then to happen day after day, those trading numbers, the volumes are unprecedented.
Brokers are selling stuff they don't have. They don't have it to deliver. They can't borrow it because it's all borrowed out.
Couple that up with the fact that more than the float was short, and how much of that was really firms that were short that created counterfeit or synthetic shares and that failed to deliver those shares, and therefore led to a huge amount of oversupply of GameStop shares in the market in January.
And yet, the brokers were allowed to continue to sell the stock. They were allowed to take your money and give you nothing.
Here's a mind blower for you. You don't actually own any of your shares. Your broker does. So when you buy a share of GameStop, let's say, through a broker like Robinhood, the DTCC transfers that ownership to your broker, not you. So let's walk through everything the apes have learned with an example. You want to buy a share of GameStop. Robinhood's supposed to find you the best deal, but they don't. They sell your order to Citadel. Then Citadel, acting as a market maker, doesn't bother to locate a share for you to buy. Because as a market maker, they don't have to. Next, your trade goes to DTCC, where they transfer ownership to Robinhood. But when it's time for your trade to settle, Citadel fails to deliver your share, creating a phantom share. Then, Robinhood lends that phantom share to Melvin Capital, who takes a position against you in the stock with your own share. The apes decided to fight back. They did something any one of us can do. They pulled their shares out of their brokers' hands and registered them directly in their own names.
When people are registering more and more, it does seem to cut down on FTDs, fails to deliver. If you do a DRS, they're not gonna lend it out. So if you don't want your shares shorted, that's kind of one way to guarantee it.
In September of 2022, GameStop revealed that the apes had directly registered an unprecedented 71.3 million shares of GameStop, pulling them out of the hands of their brokers.
So on top of this being really complicated and convoluted,
yeah,
it just seems like people are doing whatever they want.
I mean, yeah, that's the problem. They are just doing whatever they want.
The financial industry has used its economic power to buy political power.
The SEC was formed as a result of the Great Depression. Congress then determines how much money the SEC gets. What a pickle. Do you want to be biting the hand that feeds you?
The political reality is that billionaires tend to set the agenda and have an outsized influence on regulation and legislation.
In the 1930s, when the SEC was created, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have quick access to information, so they made a system of self-regulation. And almost a century later, we still have that same system. And that system is led by FINRA, a private organization tasked with regulating brokers and broker-dealers. But here's the catch. FINRA is funded and guided by its member firms, who it's supposed to regulate. Citadel and Robinhood among them.
So, in my view, I think we're past the point of no return. We're in a regulatory crisis where Wall Street and Washington are in this suicide pact, that they are going to ride this self-regulatory system to the death. And there's nothing that's going to make them admit that the system they're supporting is flawed and, in fact, is damaging the economy.
We looked at as many of the major legal actions as we could find publicly against the 6 biggest banks in the United States over 20 plus years. And it shows that they have paid hundreds of billions of dollars in fines for breaking the law over and over and over. I don't mean parking tickets, I mean manipulating markets.
Inaccurate reporting of a short sale indicator, $180,000 fine. Trading ahead of active customer orders, $700,000 fine. Failed to close a failure to deliver position, $10,000 fine. $15,000 fine. $30,000 fine. $80,000 fine. Major market manipulation between 2007 and 2010, $22,668,000 fine. This is just for Citadel Securities. These are just 9 that I picked to prove a point on an article. Tell me this isn't a systemic problem.
What happened in January 2021 was unprecedented. David took a shot at Goliath and for once got a hit. But what the mainstream media has failed to acknowledge is that this isn't over.
Like, it looked like a short squeeze. It had all of the visual effects of a short squeeze, but in fact, it didn't force the shorts to cover, did it?
We just don't have the disclosures and transparency to know what's taking place in the short side of the market. They can use different techniques to offset short positions. If there's anything we've seen be true throughout all of time on Wall Street, it's that manipulation will find a way, and it will find a way in the dark corners of the market that regulators aren't looking at.
The Apes have pulled back the curtain on decades of deregulation, consolidation, overcomplication, and incentivized criminality on Wall Street that have left us with capital markets designed to extract wealth from Main Street, while giving everyday people the illusion of true participation. It feels overwhelming, but unless we come together and demand change, we will continue to be the product.
People often say, how can you possibly make any progress given that Wall Street has an army in Washington? You don't have to go man to man with these guys. You will be amazed at what a difference even a couple of people can make if they participate in the process. Wall Street wins largely because they are unopposed.
We need to get to a point where there's enough attention on a specific issue, a specific piece of it, that you can get some real regulatory change.
And I think regulators have missed the fact that this community has become more sophisticated over this past year. And the level of sophistication has gone from, I'm buying stocks on a phone, to let me explain to you the problems and conflicts of interest at the heart of the self-regulatory system, right? Like, people understand market structure now, and they understand the flaws in the system, and the industry and regulators need to approach them as well-educated peers at this point and not condescend to them.
This is a significant development in our capital markets. It's a significant development in Wall Street, and it's different than previous movements because it started with dollars. And that's what got the attention of Wall Street. So my hope is that it will continue, and I certainly am pivoting in the way that I think about advocacy because of the apes.
I think it's hard to stereotype the ape community and to generalize about it. In fact, I'm continually impressed at the diversity in the community, and I think that that's something that should be focused on rather than this caricature of the basement-dwelling market manipulator. Oh, I'd be proud to call myself an ape.
My mom is from Tunisia, and she's already working over the retirement age now, and she has a hard work. She's a single mom. The rent here is pretty expensive, and we're somehow living on the edge.
I saw this as a great opportunity to invest in my future and my kids' future, and just being able to be financially secure and not having to work 12-hour shifts.
But I'm a nobody, really. I'm a guy who just needs a whim.
I want to have my own home, and I want to be able to repay my parents too for what they've done for me.
It would be a much better world if everyone was able to take advantage of their talents and really help themselves and their families prosper in the way that they know that they can do, and to pick up their heads.
If you can dream it, you can achieve it. And if you're stuck in a situation where you feel like nothing is going your way, nothing is being done to make sure that your life is better, take a bet on yourself, and to hell be damned, let nothing stop you. You control yourself. You are not the product. So as long as they fight, we fight. As long as they hold, we hold. Keep surviving, keep making ways out of no way, keep taking one step forward. Because at the end of the day, they would eventually get tired. We won't, because we've already lived this life.
I grew up in a housing project in Worcester, Mass. On free school lunches, food stamps, and welfare. They had nothing. And I got lucky. I went in the Air Force, I got to Harvard Law School, I got a partnership at Skadden Arps, and I worked in the United States Senate. And it's long past time that Washington stopped working for the rich, the wealthy, the big Wall Street firms, and the lobbyists, and get back to the business they are supposed to be here for.
I grew up learning about superheroes doing the right thing, about standing up to the bad guys, about being courageous in the face of adversity. I guess I just latched on to that idea that we can be superheroes.
It's important to keep yourself grounded in what fuels you, what keeps you going, what makes you feel like you're making a difference in your life and in your family's life. Keep putting your nose to the freaking grinder, because there are opportunities. Learn by failing forward, learn by leaning on your people, and learn by remembering that people are always first.
They don't know nothing about this life we live. They're not regular people. I wish that they understood that there's a person behind every zero and every comma that they go and check in their bank accounts every day. So to every ape that's holding whatever stock you're holding, keep holding until you get what makes you satisfied. There is no number. There's always a cross to bear. There's always another bridge to go across. But at the end of the day, it's your cross. And as long as you're holding, I'm holding.
Oh no, the Moash can't stop it. Them headies all get fucked by the GameStop. Rocket community indivisible. She'll attack pathetic. Them Citadel interns so pitiful. Up on Reddit, the horse, the dead beating the deed. The young and tested. You've never seen group of people so happy that they invested. Them shorts, they all crying. Them tears, they so tasty. This is GameStop song number 20. Can he hate me? It's all groovy, baby. We bringing down the mafia. We steamrolling, they ain't moving. Oops, no stopping. Yes, we sell a box. This indicating these nuts. I'll give you the tea bag. Don't go in the teacup. So keep up, ain't slowing down till it's over. We told them to never treading us. They dancing on a cobra. Bernie Madoff, move over. The king of crime is coming to a jail near you. He a flight risk. Keep running. Short hedge funds targeting your company with prime broker to sell a box to bankruptcy. They use media journalists as a weapon, aimed at American business, they home wrecking. Think for a second to read up on DD. You don't gotta believe what they saying on TV, cause they paid off and in the pocket of Kenny. Here a calm revolution of money, they ain't ready. The meme so deadly, the meme lords and generals. Them shorts getting fucked, bodies hentai tentacles. The apes so heretical, media call them blasphemy. They ride up on a bubble, about to be victim of gravity. The whole reality manufactured in Spin Alley, regulated totally absent, looking like Death Valley. So thirsty for just a drop of the justice, and they silence discourse. The media won't discuss this cause they wanna work Monday. They enforce the narrative, they're using propaganda to terrorize the terrorists. So imperative now, common American is so confused they look to the news, that's where the error is. Because the news is owned by the few, conglomerated script, you're fed through feed and tube from these evil ass dudes. Just pigs in human suits, so your ass get the boots, no longer taking abuse. Paid off senators, viable politicians, only steal apes to further the moon mission. Better blow whistle, you're organized, you're criminal. Caught red-handed and still going, you're pitiful. Jail cell minimal price for one share, because I ain't selling none of them if Kenny ain't there. So you better brace for impact. The system you were born by the apes chose to ignore the wisdom. Diamond hand apes in the war against bears. The market makers manufacture counterfeit shares. An endless supply, they call it naked short selling, while they pay for negative opinions, so you come shilling. Wall Street bets taken over by the hedgies, so we move to GME, then super stonk for the tendies. The FUD can be so deadly, but my hands polish diamond, so the shield subtitles are just hedge funds crying. We hodling and buying while Ryan tweeting a cipher, hitting Ken with a Hadouken. I'm Ryu from Street Fighter. That market manipulation from hedgy heavy hitters, consistent of many methods, hiding failures to deliver. They send it overseas and hiding them in the options, but when margin calls ring and BlackRock attend the auction, go ahead and tank it. We loving buying the dips. Got the diamond hand ape army jack to the tits. Hedges keep lying, they bleeding out dying. Attempt to make us paper hand like keep trying. Power to the players, now the players got the power. Queen Kong joined the army with our Winston David Lauer. So many lit up towers at 4 o'clock in the morning, got me checking Reddit steadily. Your day is never boring. Awarding every post of legitimate due diligence. The super stonk army, disciplined, hardened militants. We growing in intelligence, our brain forming wrinkles. Spot a shape shifting chill, I smell your shit through the sprinkles. Citadel and cold, pick the wrong fucking battle. We King Kongs climbing and topple Tower of Babel. We laugh at short ladders, posting thanks for the sale. Squeeze a snazzy banana while body surfing with the whales. Keith Gill chilling, just chuckling at the shilling, while the world realizing Ken Griffin final villain. The Citadel building soon going out of business. Got the world waiting for that Mo-ass early Christmas. Apes going Rambo, super stonk commando, buying every naked share and asking when Lambo.